Here's another reason why you want to take control of what you're doing.
Everything kind of funnels into the only winning move is not to play the game.
So I got to ask permission to buy the gun, and then I got to pay to ask permission to carry the motherfucker outside of my house. How about you go fuck yourself? Yeah.
Well, Nikki Haley lost the Nevada primary by 40 points to nobody.
So how'd she lose by nobody? Explain that.
Well, she says it's because of Trump. He's got it rigged now. So,
but who'd she lose to?
She actually there was more people there than was before. They had all the candidates there except for Trump was on the ballot for that, and I think Pence and a couple of the other people were there, and yeah, she lost by 40 points to nobody, and then I guess she's going to participate in the caucus tomorrow, and
to lose to nobody.
To what? I'm sorry, Jason.
To lose to absolutely nobody again.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm not gathering it. I've been hearing this headline. Like, how'd she get to nobody?
You can vote. So in Nevada, they have a paper vote, paper ballot. You go in and you vote in the primary, and it's just like any other vote. You can check the box, and they had a box that said none of them, none of the candidates,
none of the above,
none of the above.
And so none of the above scored higher than her.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Because I kept hearing people say, "Oh yeah, lost to nobody." I'm like, what the fuck are y'all talking about? How she lost to nobody? She had to have lost to somebody. What did she say? Trump's not really in the race, but she lost to Trump. That's what I was thinking. You know what I'm saying? Is that she's like, "Oh, Trump's illegitimate. He's not really in the race, but I still got second place because y'all's 40 points behind him." That's what I thought she was saying.
Well, I really hate capping on her, but I mean, she's fun to cap on just because she's actually still in the race. And yeah, I would imagine definitely like probably down the line, because I'm no Trumper. I'm not, as everybody knows who's been listening lately, that I'm not voting in the election. So it'll be my first time that I haven't voted, but right. I'm just not interested. I just haven't. I got my ballot today, actually.
Well, I'm going to go to Minnesota and vote a few times, so that's
Here's my California ballot that I got.
There you go.
Oh, look at that
mail-in ballot. Yeah, it's a mail-in ballot. That's the way they do it.
You mean it's a gender-neutral in ballot?
Well, yeah, I can go ahead and I can copy it about 10,000 times, and I can get Adam Schiff in there no problem. So
yeah, exactly.
You all know who I'm voting for.
Oh, you're voting for what's that name? Keith Ellison. You're voting for him?
No.
You're over in Minnesota. You got to vote for him, right?
Yeah.
No. As my sticker up there says, I'm voting for
nobody.
Nobody.
Exactly. There you go.
Well,
apparently nobody beat Nikki Haley in Nevada, so there you go.
Yeah, that's
People
right.
are winning.
Well, yeah. I mean, nobody is better than Hillary Jr.
True. Jason, you should run that in with the ads. Run it with how Nikki Haley lost by 40% to nobody, and then have buy my sticker. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Vote for nobody. I already beat Nikki Haley.
But get a picture. Let it get a picture of her, of Nikki Haley, like in some kind of like rap, like Nicki Minaj outfit, and then say Lil Hill. Vote Lil Hill.
Yeah, Lil Hill. Yeah, there you go.
Vote for Hillary Clinton and drag.
Yeah, exactly.
Hello, followers.
Yeah, and for those of y'all who don't know, Jason runs horribledesigns.com. You go check it out. There's a bunch of horrible ass designs there that are good though.
Absolutely.
They're the good kind of horrible.
They're good and horrible.
Yeah. I heard an interesting. Yeah, exactly. There you go. I heard an interesting thing. Dave Smith keeps talking about how Nikki Haley's got a lot of Democrat money behind her, how she might be running for the Democratic ticket this year, actually, because when she loses to Trump, and then if they can knock out, because they got to figure out how do we get Kamala out of the way. Well, they think, okay, well, if Biden goes down, well, Haley's the next one that's not Trump, and she checks all the boxes for the establishment. So you put her in place of Biden, and then you still got Kamala in second place. Now you got two females, man. That's a double twat ticket right there.
Wow.
Oh, you like that?
That's a
Came up with that
stretch.
on this word. No,
That's
but for
a
real
stretch.
though,
No, for
besides
real,
that,
but-
no, I think that would be interesting. That would be an interesting thing for them to do. She drops out, doesn't endorse Trump, and then goes over to the Democratic convention and they give her the ticket because everybody's behind her.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, she's got all these. I mean, if you look at the results, she's got all these Democrats in places where you don't have to vote Democrat. You know, you can vote for whatever you're not registered to. She's got all these Democrats voting for her in the primaries, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, welcome to the weather report. This is
Yeah, exactly. That too.
This is episode 3 of the weather report, and we want to thank everybody who's out there in live land that's watching us. Thank you. We're supposed to be on Rumble tonight, but Rumble dropped out for some reason. I didn't change something. I don't know. I'm still learning how to do that, but you can sign up for our newsletter if you want to go to www.weatheredsoul.com. You can sign up for our newsletter, and you can thank that man Harkos down there for setting that all up on the website, because he is the guy that does all my web stuff, man. He's pretty cool about it. We got Jason down there, and he is from Horrible Designs. He's the ones that make all our swag, like these neat little freaking coffee cups that we got here.
Absolutely.
And then we got, there you go.
There you go. It's right there.
What do you got in there, Ken, today?
It's vodka, man.
Tonight we're working.
It's
I mixed up enough so I
vodka,
wouldn't run
man.
out. It's kind of a spritzer. It's some dark rum, some pineapple rum, coconut rum, and it's got some blue curacao in there, and a splash of mango juice.
Hey, Ken,
Yeah,
is there any rum there?
there's some rum in there, is what I'm
Oh.
saying.
I used to, back in the day when I used to drink, when I was in the Army, I used to make this thing called Caribou Lou. All right. And it's where you take a 1 gallon empty jug, right? And you put half a bottle 151 in it, right? 151 rum, right?
That's
half
a
a
start.
bottle. Yeah, it's a good start, right? Half a bottle 151. And then you get a cup of Malibu rum, right? The coconut shit. Put that in there, and then you fill the rest up with pineapple juice. But I like to put pineapple orange juice, right? Fill the rest of the way up. You leave a little bit of room, shake it. Try drinking half of that in one night, weighing 158 pounds or so.
Dang.
Yeah, yeah,
Speaking
buddy.
So,
That was fun.
Speaking of the 151,
Well, you look like you need a sandwich anyway right now. What are you, about 160? What are you
No,
doing?
I just got out of the gym. I weighed myself. I was 163.
Ah, damn, I haven't seen that in a long time.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, 163.
I got married. I got married. She put 60 pounds on me.
Yeah,
I
well,
haven't seen the one part of that rate for a long time.
Oh, really, Ken? You don't
Yeah.
look like you're over 2. Jesus.
Yeah, I'm 2 and some change, but
Wow.
we
You
got
guys
skinny
five
neck.
then?
Man.
Oh, you got.
A skinny neck.
Well, that's one way to do it. No,
My dad would always call me fat. I'm the fat kid in the family, so
Yeah.
we're a skinny group.
Yeah, people aren't really heavy in my family, and we all look 20 years younger than what we actually are too. So for 37, I'm getting a stacked body now that I've been going to the gym for a couple months now.
Nice.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Still stacked, dude. Still got
Yeah,
it.
there you go.
Ah,
Yeah, you got. Yeah,
Next episode, we're expecting shirtless,
yeah, no
full,
problem.
full pectoral muscles.
Yeah,
You
can
know,
we do it right now? You know what I'm saying?
I'd show our guests my tattoos, but I'm really, really embarrassed about them because they were done so badly when I was in the service. It wasn't even funny.
Yeah, those are truly horrible designs.
Those are, I definitely have some horrible designs, but yeah, we have a good show tonight, guys. Not that our prior shows were bad or anything, but we actually have a guest tonight. And
Yes.
yeah, we can't wait to bring her on. She's a really special person. I've personally known her for a couple of years now, that she's gone through a couple of different phases with all of our mentors, Jason Stapleton, with us. So yeah, I can't wait to have her on, and we're gonna do a nice interview with her. But anybody else got anything to say? Because if anybody else doesn't have anything to say, I'm gonna go ahead.
no,
Ken.
I'm going to do one thing, and it's just something I want to bring up.
All right.
In the world of not even people I even necessarily like, but watching the internet go cuckoo over Tucker Carlson interviewing Putin, actually doing journalism, blows my mind. I'm sitting here just going, I'm a person that believes that you talk to your enemies, and you don't just shut them out and do that. You need to. It's the one thing. I'm not a Trump person really at all either, But so one thing I did respect him for is he was going to talk to the people and negotiate and trying to figure out what that is, because where commerce crosses borders, soldiers don't.
Right.
And that was kind of his thing. He put horrible people in place to run it, but it was
Michael fucking Bolton. Jesus.
Yeah, I know. God,
have you watched it yet? Have you started it yet? I started.
I haven't
started
seen
the
it.
interview.
I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it all the way through. But yeah, I started it, so it's pretty interesting. He's got an intro to it and everything. So he's got a disclaimer at the front of it.
But
so.
Look at what Tucker Carlson did. So here's a guy that was at the top of his game and was used as a sacrificial lamb in Fox News and stuff, and that that happens everywhere. But instead of going to CBS or NBC or somebody else, he said, you know what? I'm going to do this on my own. I'm going to do exactly what we've been talking about. Now, he could do it at a higher level with millions of dollars, but it's still a huge risk, because with the more money you have, the bigger your risk is. And I'll tell you what, if someone's going to lose $10 million and they have $30 million, they still hurt because of that $10 million is gone. So looking at what we're always saying is, if you got to try something new, you got to start something, you got to change your life, whatever gets thrown at you, take a couple days, lick your wounds, and then stand back up, pull up your bootstraps and get after it. And that's what you got to do. And that's what I can see him doing. And our guest tonight is going to be someone that also has done that. And we'll be talking with her, Amy, here in a minute. But with Tucker, what he's doing with this leader, what I'd like to see is, hopefully this will help. Again, Twitter is really the only place. Even Rand Paul came out to and thanked Elon Musk for having the only place online right now that's not controlled by the government, that you can have open discussion. And it still is. And of course it's a shit show, because that's what you're going to have with people that disagree, but it has to be there. The shit show is why we have the First Amendment. It's not to protect things that we like to hear. It's to protect things you hate to hear. Every worst, horrible thing that you can see, in horrible design world, is you can say it because of the First Amendment. And so when you get that, slapped down and you got to figure out what to do and start over again, he was gone for a few months. I mean, we can't forget that. He was gone for a few months trying to figure out what to do. He was looking at enormous lawsuits. And so when people say, oh, boo hoo, he's this rich guy, I'm like, you don't understand what's at stake. These people can take everything from you. So to be able to stand up and do that, and all four of us here at some point in our lives have done that. Not at that level, of course, but we've had to just say, you know what, I'm just going to do this thing. That's what it is. I'm a person that's always done that, and it's never been successful until just recently, in the last decade, basically. Right. But Amy, I'd like to bring you on right now. And so we're going to add Amy Nichols to the stage. She is a tattoo artist. I would say that we're probably safe to say we're each other's mentors, which is kind of a cool place to be in the world of art. Where I struggle on things, Amy is super proficient at. And she's a fine artist. She has a degree in it. And she decided, and I'll let her tell her story kind of in the beginning of what she's doing, but she's decided to go into the world of tattooing. And I'll let her. Amy, welcome to the show.
Hello. I am licensed as an artist, but I'm not a degreed artist. I'm actually a college dropout. I went to school for a long time for it, but I never got a degree.
Where did you go to school? What school were you at?
I went to the Maryland Institute College of Art. And
very good.
Pretty far. But I dropped out. It occurred to me at a certain point that the majority of people who went there didn't end up using their degree afterwards. And and it was a very, very pricey education. Now, it would have been a better revelation had I not spent so much money before I got there. But I got there eventually, and I feel like my real education came when I got out of college and I started working for companies and seeing how they marketed and advertised. I learned a lot from working at Starbucks, actually. I recommend Starbucks and probably not now. When it was first going, it was great.
Watching that build up was pretty cool. I mean, they really did a good job, that company. in building and marketing, and they sold coffee.
Yeah.
And they've turned it into, here's a $7 cup of coffee, and there's a line. I'm in Baldwin, Wisconsin. You've been to my house. You know my little town. There's a little Starbucks there in the corner, and there's 3,000 people in this whole town, and there's a line every morning, 20 minutes long at Starbucks.
I've
That's
heard
crazy.
where they face each other and they're both busy, like they're on the other side of the road.
Yeah, I come from California. We got one on every we got 4 corners. We got one on each corner.
Yeah, man.
I tease you, but no, we actually do have 3 Starbucks within a quarter mile of each other. It is like insane.
I'm old enough now to be a hipster and say I did the coffee game when it meant something, like when you actually had to pull a shot and know how to steam milk to an appropriate temperature, and it wasn't just this button out of this never clean machine.
Yep.
You overpriced thick crap to drink. Now I'm bougie, and I make my own at home. I pull my own shots at home. So
Yeah, we went bougie with the coffee beans a couple of months ago. Actually, a couple of years ago. John Odermatt from the Lions of Liberty had his own coffee thing going for a while.
Yeah,
He's recently got
right.
out of it, but I was getting his coffee for a couple of months, and yeah, it was really good. So,
What was the name of that one couple who had their own coffee company that was in Jason's Nomad Network?
The Colocum.
Yeah, those might be good people to start supporting. You got them?
I still get them.
It's good coffee.
yeah, they finally got their license to go ahead and go out of state. So they're doing that.
what's their name again?
Colocum Craft Coffee.
Yeah, Clockman Craft out of Washington.
So it's COL.
OCKUM.
Yep.
Okay.
But anyway, that's good stuff. And again, in the world, there's another group of, we all know each other from basically, we're just going to call it the Nomad Network, and something that Jason Stapleton, podcast guy and marketer, put together. And so we are kind of the group that would gather together on this network and really talk about and help each other. And this is one of the things that I like to talk about as we go. And we talk with Amy about how to take adversity, changing your direction and making it into something. And you're not going to be good at it at first. So how did you start? You had to start tattooing somewhere because you were an artist already. So you had the art down. But like myself, a few years ago when I picked up a paintbrush and started doing like acrylic painting again, after I hadn't touched it in 30 years, I had to relearn. I sucked at it, and I was a pretty accomplished artist, but then I'm sitting down there trying to paint a horse and it looked like ass, and I mean like a jackass. So when you started your tattooing, what was that like? What was going through your mind of just like, oh, okay, I can do this, but why am I not able to do it right? Like, why can't I just do it?
Well, I think that goes way back, Ken, before art, before anything. I had a really good mentor in my father. My father is a person who likes to do a lot of things, and he's always been athletic, and he's always been a person that wasn't the best athlete, but always kept pushing at those things and really emulated that. And I grew up in a small business family where everybody in my family really pursued their passions. My mother was big in business mindedness. She was definitely more of the brains behind things as far as like the business sense and, the economics of everything. But my dad was more of the tactile passion person. And so with that combination, I grew up in a family that always had a business going, and I had that illustrated to me. And so I watched their journey. And at 12, they opened up their own salon, and I got to see how much effort that took from a very grassroots level. We grew up pretty much like middle to lower class, and was able to scale through that business to like middle to like more upper class. But it was all very from the ground up. And I got to see that, like, when you start a business, there's so much that you put into it first for at least the first 3 years. There's just nothing but heart and soul and dedication that you put in. And honestly, I've never been the best of anything. I was always taught it's important to play, not to win. And I think that's a better, I don't know, for me, being a person who just, what do winners get at the end? I know that we were founded in like the Jason Stapleton kind of thing of like winners, win, they show up, they're constantly focused on goals. I can't say that's my driving force. My driving force has always just been, I want to play. I don't want to be on the sidelines, not being brave enough to just get in the game and see what I got. I think it's always better just to play, even if you suck. And I usually do. So like art's really the thing that I've always just had a natural ability to. I like playing with things and seeing what I can make with my hands. But I've, and I'm good enough that people have said, wow, you're good at that. And like they give me money for it now. So I guess it was just always a humility and a more of a love of playing and being the type of person who was fostered by a lot of people that were like, dude, you just got to get in there. You gotta suck. And it's better to suck and do it than to stand on the sidelines and not do it and tell everybody else what they should be doing, because nobody respects that person. So it's a long answer, but that's my answer.
That's true, though. I mean, this is where, looking at there's opportunities to use your talents for things that you're going to suck at first. One of the things that you can look back on life and you, like you said, if you don't do it, you're going to regret it. And like when I was 14 years old in Massachusetts, you could get your private pilot's license at 14.
Oh, wow.
And my brother was a flight instructor. And he says, hey, if you pay for gas, we had a little Cessna. And my parents bought it with another family. But it's back when you can buy an airplane for like $14,000. It was less than the station wagon, It wasn't like we were rich or anything like that. But so my brother's a flight instructor and an FAA safety counselor and would teach me and stuff like that. And I was too self-absorbed with other crap to do it. And I could have been, my life would have taken a whole different path. And do I regret not getting that license? Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, I look back on that once I was in my 20s and really realized how dumb that was, what a missed opportunity I had. I was like, I'm never doing that again. If I see an opportunity, I'm going to jump at it. And so you can answer this if you've done the same thing. Have you jumped at opportunities that have gone nowhere? I've done plenty of those where I've gone down the path of really enjoying something. I played in a blues band for many years and I was like, okay, I can go be a musician now. I'm going to do that for a while. So I go do that for a while, which it ended up being, the typical, that guys drop out of the band, they come back in, and he quits again, and then falls off the wagon and overdoses in Texas on amphetamines. It was just like all the things, that you learn through life. Where did, as you grew into, going into the tattoo world and stuff like that, where were some of the bumps in the road that you hit?
Well, I think what you just outlined was my dating life, honestly. Like, have you ever invested a large amount of time into people and or things and they just not go anywhere? Yeah. And I definitely learned. I would say that there were benefits to that. But yeah, that's been my dating life. And as far as tattooing is concerned, I had 2 apprenticeships. My first time tattooing, I learned in Kentucky. And you talked about kind of what's hard there. I was kind of fueled in Kentucky by blind passion because I didn't have any option. I kind of divorced myself from my family and took off with a very awful boyfriend. And he was the worst of my life. And it took me, like one of those things, like, how did you get into the cult? Oh, well, I was, completely brainwashed and convinced to follow this person to like crazy lands. And so that was kind of my first realm into tattooing. And it was a wild ride, but that's what incensed me to do it. Was he had said, oh, you could tattoo for a living. And I really didn't have many other options other than, like Starbucks. So I was like, sure, screw it. I'll go and I'll learn how to tattoo. And I got hired right away because I had a solid art portfolio. So, but the second time that I went into tattooing, I was with a boyfriend that I was with for 8 years. But when I started, it was rather early in our relationship, or, kind of. And my boss, who would be my boss and future mentor, looked at me and said, "Are you ready to lose this relationship? Because
Wow.
you're probably going."
Wow.
And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm not many last past this. So I hope it's something you're willing to sacrifice." And I said, "Well, the way I see it is if anybody, leaves me or can't work with me when I'm pursuing my passions, then they weren't meant to be." So I guess that answered it. But he didn't end up working, and we did eventually break up. So uh, you know, that's the other thing I'll say about pursuing what you really want. You have to really want it, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I've sacrificed a lot in the name of what my life is right now. It there's good things and there's bad things. Like I chose not to have kids. It's not to say that I couldn't have. I will say that with the choices and partners that I had leading up to the present, I don't think that would have been a good thing. I don't think that I would have gotten as far in the art career that I have had I. I'd have a kid for it. And that's a thing that you could only speculate about. From what I hear from people, that's like the best thing they've ever done with their life. But that was a choice that I made to pursue my career, because that was something that I knew I could fortify for myself and never have to be dependent on someone else. So,
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you tattooed my kid.
yeah. After
So
she had her kid.
it's interesting because you're at a level now where you're actually once in a while will travel and do kind of on-site. I mean, how do you describe it as a guest artist in a tattoo parlor around it? That's why you were out here at the time in Minnesota, and it was a couple of years ago, and you came out and worked with a local really great tattoo artist out here. And so talk a little bit about how that happens. How do you get to that? What's that network like? I mean, everyone has their little niche and it's a small world. I'd imagine that the world of tattoo artists at your level has to be a small world.
Yeah. Well, you had mentioned earlier about sucking right away. And the fact of the matter is that it's forever expanding. Like all things, you're always trying to push the envelope of what you know and what you can know. And so a lot of that's through seeking education. So if you really want to be good at something, you put yourself in alignment with people who are better than you. So a lot of the guest artist things came from investing in educational experiences and meeting people through that. And you everybody's gathered together for the same want to push the envelope of what they know and trade and what they're seeking. So I mean, even us, we all met because we were pushing the envelope of our entrepreneurial knowledge. So and these are the connections that last forever, and they're the kind of things that I think that people can really work within, because when you have a meeting of minds like that and it's very, very focused around one thing, you can kind of let go of the rest of the stuff, like anything that's political, anything that's that you're like, we're all artists. We're all seeking the same information. We're all trying to push our betterment. And when you meet people that are in alignment with that, at least there's like that binding respect. So that's how it happens, is you meet people, and if they own a tattoo studio and they like you, the cut of your jib, you have a great moment at a learning environment or at a convention, and they're like, "Hey man, come out, we would love to host you at our studio." And then you just you make it happen. I mean, it's a lot to make happen, because I'm, like I said, I'm bougie, so I have a lot of things that I try to make happen for myself. There's a lot of people that I've met that, like, it's really like very streamline their guest visits. Like they stay in very cheap places and they try to cut corners as much as they can to keep costs down. I book an Airbnb. I make sure that I have, ability to have food and I'm able to cook for myself. And like, I want to have a few days that are open so I can like see the place that I'm visiting and all that kind of stuff. So for me, it's kind of, I like it that way because I don't really take vacations. I kind of like to work and then check out a few days, a few things. And it's weird because sometimes I check out spots that the locals don't even know about. And I'm like, hey, have you gone to this like bar grill down the road? They're really good. And they're like, no, where is this place? And I'm like, yeah, it's got this and this. And they're like, what? I've lived here forever. So yeah, it's fun.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd love to share some of your art here. So I'm going to bring that up on the screen from your Amy Nichols page. And I'm just enamored by just
Damn.
I've seen tattoo work done, on TV, they have the tattoo, whatever shows.
The dumbass show. Yeah.
Yeah, the dumbass shows. Yeah. And then I've been in tattoo parlors and I've seen the art, and to me it's just amazing the depth, and I tell this to Ken too, because I have some pieces of Ken's art here in my house, and to be able to create depth and detail and things like that. And I'm a graphics guy. I do CAD. I draw lines and circles all day. I couldn't ever think about doing whatever you're doing here. The art that you do here, I just think that this stuff this art is incredible, and the education,
detail, man.
the education, the detail, the dedication that you have to do this, and the confidence that you have to have that tattoo pen in your hand and working on somebody else instead of yourself has got to be number one, nerve-wracking, but rewarding at the same time when it comes out right.
Well, actually, before I tattooed, I cut hair, and I will say that cutting hair is harder as far as like because it's people's every day. It's what they go to work with. It's what they show up for. It's very tethered to their identity, and it's also something that they have childhood trauma from. You don't have that with tattoos because nobody's tattooing anybody that isn't 18, hopefully. That you can be as old as like maybe 14 and have like gotten a tattoo, but most people are not sitting there with childhood trauma from a tattoo, apart from really dark corners of our history. But so you're not dealing with an anxious person who is just so worried that they're going to show up the next day and just hate their hair and not be able to do anything with it. And that also is the key, is that they have to be able to do something with this hairstyle you give them. With tattooing, a lot is in your court. You get to take a lot of ownership of it. You can take your time. There's a consultation process to where you really get to intimately find out about a person and really, really in depth look at their ideas. Whereas with cutting hair, it's so much more on the spot. You got like 5 minutes to understand what somebody's talking about. And it's a matter of retention, not a one-time feat. Although I will say that a lot of my tattoo clients, because I came from the service industry and I was so big about fulfilling them on a person level, most of my clients are return clients. It's not just a one-time thing. A lot of them are lifers. Once they've experienced somebody else, I mean, that's probably the one thing I can say that's shining about me. Not my art, because there's a lot of better artists. I mean, I think I'm okay. Honestly.
So then the art, so the people that come in to do your tattooing, because I know you're selective in your clientele now, and so are these artists that come in and have their own art put on them, or do they come up with an idea and you guys both work together, or do you have actual samples that you go like, hey, I can do this for you, I can do that for you?
For the most part, I meet with them and I talk about what they want to express. And if I had any kind of style, it would be like illustrative, because it's very married to what they're trying to conceptually express. And a big thing for me is that it's not something that will be able to be replicated by anyone else without it being very, very understood that that's what they're doing. They're stealing from me. There are a lot of things now, particularly flash design and ready-made designs are really big, where people have pre-drawn work, but I find that they are they're super easy to steal. They're super easy to put on anyone or anything, and that's what happens when you make bulk designs like that. But when you meet with somebody and you really like dig into like, you know, what they want to express, what they're conceptually going through or something like that, then you get to really express something that's unique. So I try to collaborate. They're not artists. Most of them are not artists, but most people are creative, and most people are really trying to express something that is in them, you know, from a very base, you know, like soulful level. And what they need is an artist to help them express this. So they come to somebody like me who sits down for like at least an hour and talks to them and digs, like peels apart their ideas. We look at images together. We, you know, discuss certain things they don't like, that they've seen in other things. And then they basically just let me go. And the typical response that people get from my work is, wow, that is not what I was expecting, but it's better. so that's, I like that. That's a good, yeah.
It's a good way of doing things. I know in our case, and my daughter, she's 29 now. A couple of years ago, you did that tattoo for her. The process that you used, and this goes through whether you're doing a tattoo or anything, when you're building a client and you're building that affinity and that know, like, and trust person. What you did with her when you guys were going back and forth and with the ideas, and it number one, it showed that your focus on service. You know, you could do what you come up with, but I also know this because you've told me this before. Sometimes you just can't get there with a person because it just isn't right. And I know that I've asked you some things about some tattoos, and you're like, you know what, that's really not my thing. If you want to have something like that done, you might want to try this person over here, and you refer them. And I do the same thing with artwork and some pinstriping and stuff on cars. There's some things I can't do. I can't put two straight lines on the side of a truck going down. I can't, but I know a guy does. So I send all that work to him. So, you know, again, part of the building affinity with the customer, whether it's in anything. I mean, music is another thing. That's something that you had to do, especially like Bruce and me and Chris are all in music in a different part of things. We've all had different areas at it completely, but it's exactly the same with when you're talking to the client, which is the audience. You know, you have to connect with them at some point, at some level. And it's deeper than just, here's this cool song I do, or I can play this instrument really good, because there's plenty of like, if just pure talent was it, like, think about so many artists that go absolutely nowhere because they just cannot connect. You know, they're so, whether they're inside themselves or they're shy or they just can't do it. And it's just, you are a person that I was always drawn to in that way, because you just are a very inviting person in a very open kind of way, where you just want to have a conversation, whether it's about art or music or, you know, throwing axes or like, you know, your boyfriend Rico shoots black powder rifles, and I'm just enamored with his Instagram page. Oh my God, it's odd.
I love that.
But you know what I mean? So it's like, but what you're talking about, I mean, I saw it happen with my daughter, and even with my wife too, because we're gonna actually drive out to you and do a tattoo at some point. And we were gonna do it last year, and that's when my dad died, and that'll kind of throw a wrench in the works. But the process of doing that, this is something that people forget right now. It's like, and if you want to start something, if you even have a little talent on something, you don't have to be the best at it, just be reasonably good at something. You have to be able to go to your customer and relate with them. And so I would say this to anybody that's listening that wants to try something: go to a craft show, not to look at the crafts, but go walk around and see who you remember when you've walked around. I guarantee it isn't going to be the best art or the best crafts person. It's going to be the person that you talked to the most, that connected with you. That's who you're going to remember. The person that had the story, you're going to remember. You're not going to remember the guy that made cutting boards that sat in his chair like this. Hi, the people
Yeah,
that get
or
up
the
and talk
one,
to
or
us.
the one that looks
Go
all
ahead.
smug and doesn't want to talk to you and stuff like that. I've been to, I've seen like booths and stuff like that, like those little trade shows or whatever. You got the one guy and like he's over there, got all these huge numbers on all the price tags on everything, and he's just over there in the corner, just like reading a book, just like, don't bother me unless you put the money on the table first, type of thing, And
And the lady
yeah.
across from him that's selling purses that she made by hand for $20 a piece didn't bring enough, and she sold out because
Yeah,
she was
exactly.
talking to everybody.
Yeah, and she was even giving people cookies and stuff like that
Yeah,
too, and all that stuff. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that kind of stuff. That's one of the things I deal with in my realm as well too, just to kind of shoot in, is that customer service, being able to connect with the consumer, that's key in any industry, And I can tell you recently listened to the last episode that I put out on my podcast, because you said something exactly what we covered, Ken. But like, as a musician or as any kind of artist, you have to connect with your thing. And like a lot of musicians, especially in the hip hop realm, they're like, oh no, I'm just dope, man. I'm just gonna put the stuff out there. Let one of the most retarded things I ever heard, I hear artists say all the time, I'm just gonna let the music speak for itself. I'm like, what's gonna fall on deaf ears, you dumbass? Like, you got to speak for your music, and that's the same way with your art, like Amy, like, you don't think you're a badass, but a lot of artists don't think that they're great when everybody else thinks that they are. And so like, but you as the person are what bring your art to life. And then you create awesome pieces of work that people love, and they keep coming back for the art and for the connection. Because if you drew stick figures on people, they wouldn't come back to you just because you're awesome. You gotta have that happy medium.
Actually, there.
Okay. Prove me wrong. Go for it.
No. I mean, well, I'll say two things. The Bruce, you had asked about my selectivity. My selectivity is, Ken was kind of touching on it, but right now it's like a vibe of being able to work with people. So right now it's I go through a long process to kind of weed out who will or will not hold on. So I make people wait a really long time before I even talk to them. A lot of people move on to another artist before we even talk to each other. And that I do just because I really want them to want it. And I want them to be thinking about it for a long time, because if you can think about it for a long time, that means you're willing and ready to wear it a long time. I think that the depth of which we can come to something that's never been happens that way. And I think that it qualifies the idea, and it also qualifies how open and ready they are to have something that's never been. So it primes a person to kind of fit into that area that I really want them to be, where they're ready to like make some art together. And it kind of says what you were saying, Chris, of like that connection where like I can really in depth pull out this thing that they've been wanting for so long, and they really are yearning for, and it just speaks to the soul. And I'm better with that. But there are people, getting back to the whole stick figure thing, I just met a woman, her wife gets drunk, and her entire thing is, she's not a tattoo artist. She just comes in and I think her Instagram is Shaky Lines or something like that. And she'll just she just consults with you for like 10 minutes and creates like this little scribble stick figure drawing that she came up with you, and then she'll tattoo it on you. And she's just down in Bud Lights, like just.
And people pay for this?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that sounds right. That's an experience.
Is she right next door to a methadone clinic? I don't understand what kind of people would want that.
It's just people who want to be, because we live in a TikTok world, right? Like we live in a live in a place where people want this.
The new age hipsters, they got to be unique and weird. And okay, I get
She
what you're
does it in the tattoo shop. She's gloved up. She's not hurting anybody beyond the tattoo. So she's not giving them a disease or anything like that. She's being over, her wife's a tattoo artist.
saying.
So she's being viewed by somebody who knows what they're doing, and she can only hurt a person so much within that. But yeah, people get these stick figures from her just because it's like, woo,
Well,
I
yeah,
don't see
people,
that.
yeah, people did buy painted rocks too as pets.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Yeah,
people
I know a
weird
lot
than
of people.
anything.
I know a lot of people who paint rocks.
Do you remember a couple of years ago that the Jason Stapleton, just to prove a point, drew a stick figure and then
Yes.
auctioned it off?
The
And
NFT.
it's sold. Yeah, NFT. That's right. He's like, this is how stupid. I think it sold for like $300 or $400.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, it
really?
wasn't nothing crazy, but yeah, I remember that.
But so there, there is a place for all of that. But those turn it, like you said, that gets fad like. It's a pet rock. It's one of the things that says a great lead in for one of the in the world of tattooing. Years ago it was a taboo thing to have, and then it turned into trendy, and then it's turned into, like when I go to a tattoo parlor, I talk to some people with tattoos. My daughter has quite a few. There's so many people that are just doing it because it's just trendy that they don't really, like you said, they go through, look through the book and find some flash art. How much is this? How much is this one? Oh, I like that. Oh, that's too much. This one, they're shopping by price, and I just want something on my arm, North Dehooter. Oh, it's supposed to be South Dehooter. Oh, you never know. Regrets on your neck, the whole bit. Are you
No regrets. Yes.
What's your thought on the whole, the whole genre of, I'm serious. I got to get this tattoo because this means something, and I got to get a tattoo because TikTok says I should.
That hits too close to home.
Well, it's an interesting thing because it kind of it involves the evolution of tattooing as well. You had gone back to my heyday about how I learned, but we now are in an age where the people of my generation really scaled the information that was available. So there's been access to a lot of people who would teach themselves to tattoo. And so the market's been flooded by people who draw stick figures, people like, if you are that person who's shopping price, who's shopping, I just want something here, you are easily going to find that person, because the information age in our world right now is, you can get a tattoo machine off Amazon. That was never the case in my generation of tattooing. My generation, you had to get an apprenticeship. You had to go to a studio in person, get rejected in person. You had to show a physical portfolio. In college, I had to submit slides. There was
slides
that you emailed shit into. You had to take physical slides, and they had to put them on a projector. We had projectors. So when I approached tattooing, there was that. And now I think, and that's kind of led to the whole, ready-made kind of thing, because these newer artists are trying to compete with us, and they can in certain ways if they're really good, if they're really, really good and they really are able to just pump out a lot of designs and be very efficient at putting them on. They have to be super, super, super good. But in order to compete with somebody like me from that generation, I have a repertoire of clients that trust me, and they'll trust me to do anything. And it doesn't even matter if I'm as good as these newer people. They don't trust them. They don't know them. They don't care. They're just like, no, I would much rather be with you and know that I'm going to have a great time and a decent product than take my gambles with somebody else. So a lot of it comes down to just, I think, competition and the flooding of the space, supply and demand kind of thing. Right now, you're right. There's a lot of fad stuff, but my era of tattoo artists is holding strong and true, because we came from a very grounded point of passion, and I really think that is, you know, you mentioned it, Chris. You know, you go to a craft store. There's a difference between somebody you can tell that really loves it and geeks out about it and will engage with you and they just want to share what they do, than the guy who's sitting there and being like, "Bleh." I see this with young artists right now where they're assuming an attitude that isn't appropriate for their age, where they're good, but they're cutting their like nose off to spite their face. Like, yeah, I don't do that. I don't do that. I do this. This is what I do. And it's very bizarre to me because, you know, in my time, you did everything. You did everything. You wanted to do everything. You wanted to try everything just to see. You found your style by doing everything, not just coining yourself right out the gate. This is what I do. And I see that a lot, and charging like premium price for it. And then they wonder why they're not busy. And it's like, I can tell you why you're not busy. You're not to that level yet, boo. Like, that's not like, and you know, you're not even really nice about it either. You're kind of a jerk, and that's why people don't want to work with you. I mean, I think there's a thing that says that you can be late, you can be really good, and what was it? It's a Neil Gaiman philosophy that he put out on his he did a commencement speech. He said you can always be on time, you can be really, really good, and you can be a pleasure to work with. And you don't even need to be all three, you just need to be 2 out of 3.
Right.
You know, if you're really good and always late and a pleasure to be around, you know, like people forgive you for being late. You know, if you do a good job, you know, competent job, you know, basically you don't have to be everything. You just have to be 2 out of 3 great. And that's what you need when you cut your, you know, nose off to spite your face like that. That's and then they're late, they're not a pleasure to be around. And you know, usually the art's decent enough, but it's not competitive enough. You're dealing with people. So if you don't love people first, then in my mind, in this day and age, you have no business even tattooing. You do art because you can sell art, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you would love to have, like, you know, just more options to like buy art from people. I mean, there's tons of spaces where you can buy art, and you know, different levels, $300 NFTs. You know, like whatever. There's different levels to which you can sell yourself as an artist, and you can diversify in multiple spaces. That if you don't really like people, I don't even see why with the technology why you would even bother. And that's why I tell a lot of people when they go into tattooing, now that I'm in a position where I'm able to advise the next generation. It's like, dude, if you have anxiety, if you don't really like people, I guess I would be a great person to start with, because I'm going to cure you of the anxiety right away. Kind of messed up my first apprentice. She was messed up after me. She was like, I didn't know that you would tear down my world and like break me. And I was like, yeah, you know.
You bring that up. That's a good thing. Being humbled is, if you look at it in the right way of this is a person that's actually wants you to be better, even if it's a coworker or something. I know you've had some apprentices. You know, I was at one point I painted goalie masks, and the first day I walked in there as Joe Airbrush guy. I've had stuff on magazines, man. I'm the shit. And I painted this skull thing, and it's one of the less expensive ones that he did. And he showed me the one he did, and this is the one I did. And I knocked this thing out of the park, Amy. I was like, look at this skull, man. This sucker is so good. So good. I did a little different than you, but see, this is better. And this is, I'll do it like this. He literally, we did it on one shot, sign painters and Nimmel. He dipped a paper towel into a vat of mineral spirits, because yeah, it's not going to work. And he just wiped it off. The whole thing. 4 hours of work. He just, yeah, that's not going to do. You have to try that again. You know? And I'm like, motherfucker. Yeah, I was so mad, but then I looked at his and I thought about mine, and I'm like, God, he's right. It's just better if I do it his way, because like you said, you got to be able to do things that's right, not necessarily the way you want to do it. Because sometimes the way you want to do it, especially in art or music, it might be a certain way. You know, if you have a whole song that's 4/4 and then you have one bar of 5/4 in it and you're not Rush, it's it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
Rush could make it work though, because that was their thing. But
I'm going to drive you crazy then, Ken.
oh yeah, no, I'm with you, Mister.
Anyway.
Yeah, so I want to just count off. Just count off before you send me a guitar track. That's all I'm asking. Count what? Anyway, we're having fun with each other. But Amy, no, it's been great because it's what you're saying is exactly what people need to hear when they're starting out, or even if you're in business for a while and things are, if we're going to a downturn, who knows? I don't think we necessarily are, but you can still turn your business around by exactly the same things that Amy was talking about, of just treating the people that are supporting your business with humility and treat them well. And once in a while, someone will take advantage of you. That's fine. Just don't make it the norm, and you'll be just fine. So I mean, those are good words of advice, Amy. I appreciate that.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, and if you do get taken advantage of, the important thing is to learn from it and, realize that it says more about who that person is than it does about who you are. Because I've talked to people
True.
who've been had before, and they've taken a very like, oh, I should have known. And I was like, no, you had your heart broken by somebody who you entrusted it to, that was supposed to treat that with some kind of sacred respect. And, it kind of saddens me that a chip has been taken away from a very beautiful thing that is rare in this world. And now you're going to have to fortify that a little bit more, because there's a lot of people out there that are not looking to, everybody has their hustle. Everybody has their priorities. I think everybody does. In recent years, I've taken more of a spiritual position and really gotten into my faith. So I think I have a more balanced feeling about other people now that is a lot better in terms of what is fair and decent in regards to other people. Holding high ideals in a lot of spaces is great, but I think it's better to give those things to a higher power than expecting everyone in your life to appeal to those things. It's much better to, be savvy, kind of see what somebody's angle is and why they're in it. And decide whether or not that's okay with you. If you're willing to sacrifice or walk into something with somebody knowing that they might be out for a certain thing. And if you align about that. But yeah, I mean, a business is hard because it's, if you are in the business of people, it's hard to make those boundaries because most of the people that I work with become friends in some way. I truly love them, because we share a lot of intimacy, and it's, it's always sometimes it's weird taking money at the end of that, like it's very strange because I love it and it heals me and it makes me really happy and it makes them thrilled. And I'm just like, man, I wish this could just be at the end of it. Like I just wish this could be over, but it's not. And then you got to do that part. That's, I just, that's not the fun part. But when you are in a good, I think, rhythm, people want to do that because they want, they know it's valuable. They value it highly and they pay what it's worth and they don't blink. So, but it feels weird from the other end because you're just like,
it does feel weird from the other end. It does. There's times you're just like, I just don't feel right charging for this. But the people that you're giving it to, or they've done the work for, they don't feel right taking it. They're like, no, you need to be supported in that. And that's how you've got, because there's humility on both sides, and so that I think that's a great way to walk through this whole conversation. I think this has been great. We would like to, Amy, I know you've got you have a bunch of outstanding podcasts out there. If you could talk a little about where they can hear you and your website, Instagram, wherever you give us where can they find Amy Nichols and the Apprenticeship Diaries?
Yeah. Well, the Apprenticeship Diaries, it's theapprenticeshipdiaries.com is the website. It's a very raw website. And that's actually my tagline, which is raw to refined. I don't know when we'll be refined, but that's not the point. It's a moving diary. It was my want to podcast, knowing nothing about podcasting other than I like the medium and I can talk. And when I have talked, people have often said, yeah, I never really thought about that way. Now that you've said it. So I felt like I had some kind of different flavor in that space that I could offer the world. But it was also motivated by the fact that I really I can't say I didn't like it. Optically, I didn't like the tattoo industry or other tattoo artists. And it occurred to me that maybe I didn't know very many. And so like maybe I should meet more. And after my first apprentice, that was such a revelation because I got to go back in time and see things from a much different perspective. So I figured I'd tax it more by gathering other people's journey into whatever it started out with tattooing just because that's what I do, but it's honestly open to, I mean, you've been on the podcast, Ken, other people in the Nomad Network have been on it. It's really just about how do you get into the space that you're going in, or what drives you, or what does this feel like to pursue a passion. And usually it feels mucky. Usually it feels like you're trudging through mud. Like, am I actually ever getting anywhere? But you're just, it's something that's slower when you're doing it well. I think it's not as fast as you want it to go. And there are plateaus. There are definitely peaks. We were talking about peaks before we started recording. And, and then there's plateaus of where you're like, you're just kind of, you're doing great, but you're kind of feeling like I should do more, like I really need to do more. What's next? And I don't think that when people are starting out anything that's ever going to happen. Like they're so aiming to get where they're going that they can't even imagine getting there and being like, okay, well, what now? And there's lots of that in success. So, you got to keep scaling. And that's really the Apprenticeship Diaries for me. It was like not knowing podcasting. I've been doing it for 5 years now. Like I said, before we started recording, it's the only diary that I've been able to keep long term. And, I hope it keeps improving. I mean, the audio was awful in the beginning. So if you start all the way at the beginning.
Well, I just heard a disclaimer about your 200th episode is going to be a little bit shaky, huh?
I'm telling you, it's, God bless you if you stick it out that way. But I've had people, and it's the same as like the people were there in the beginning of tattooing. Like those are the people that, they're friends more than anything now. We are diehards. Like I would do anything for them. Like if they asked me to go back into a tattoo, I'd probably do it for nothing just because they gave me so much so early. And I have that in the podcasting realm. I have people that have followed me since day one, and I'm like, why? This is terrible. But they did. And, that's the one thing that I can say to anybody that's doing things. You never underestimate how you're seen from the outside. There's somebody out there who thinks you're really a lot cooler than you do. And, you have an opportunity to share with them something that could really change their life if you opened up to it and didn't defeat yourself before you started. So just go for it, man, because that's what they're probably waiting for. They're probably waiting for you to just do the thing that they've been wanting to do. And they just need somebody else that they think is awesome to do it first. And you know, if you don't get too messed up, they're like, oh wow, I can do that too.
Well, listening to your podcast today, this last podcast you did, number 199, because you got 200 coming up, right?
Yes.
The benchmark 200. You were speaking to me. You were speaking my language today. It was very informative. I felt like you were in my house and I was in your house. And some of the other spiritual stuff that you're going through right now. I can't think of a better way to go through the Bible as into write it in calligraphy. I think that you're in for an awesome freaking journey. And
dude, it sucks so bad. Like, so bad. I'm so bad. Like, that's like, Ken, we were talking about it at some point, but like, I mean, you're bringing it up that I'm trying to write the Bible out longhand, and
I think that's awesome.
I'm so bad, Bruce.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. Just go with the flow. Go with the flow.
Think of that trail. That's
the problem.
You know, not only are you gonna, I mean, there's just so much to learn in everything about it. You know, spiritually, you know, physically, mentally, the whole bit. Whether you get closer to God or not, the whole experience is going to be just something that's going to be inside you forever. And I just commend you from that. And like I said, today I felt like I was in your house, but you were in mine too. And it was a fantastic episode. The only episode I've heard so far, but
it's hard.
I'd be remiss if I had you on the podcast and not even listen to your podcast.
Well, you know, I mean, you bring up a big point that when you're surrounded by other creatives, it's really hard to keep up with other people's stuff. Like, I mean, that's something I found too. You know, you want to be everywhere, you know, and doing everything all at once, but it's literally impossible. So I do think that that's the other thing that you have to conquer too, is like keeping blinders on and just doing your thing and not overly focusing on what other people are doing, because that can be the thief of joy too. Like if you see what somebody else is doing and you're like, oh my God, they're doing it better than me or whatever, or just trying to be everything all at once. Like I think there becomes the respect amongst creatives that is just like, dude, we're so busy. Like I don't talk to my friends for years, and they're just like, months in advance just to like go to their birthday party. They're like, you're gonna go to my birthday party, and I'm like, okay, you know, like, but you know, that's something that happens too that hopefully people are prepared for, because I think they think that if you're running your own show or your own business, I mean, Jason Stapleton talks about it all the time, that you're somehow not working. You know, like you're working way more than 40 hours a week.
No, we're working for sure. We're working all the time.
Yeah, it's constant. So you gotta love it. You gotta dedicate to it. Chris, I was just thinking about you with like freaking doing the calligraphy. So another pursuit that I have wanted to get into, and I've been doing, I think it's like 360 some days that I've done of Duolingo trying to learn French. And recently I have fallen in love with French hip hop. I freaking love it. It's so good. I'll have to send you like my favorite amongst the things that I've listened to, but maybe that's what I need to be listening to as I'm trying to like do the calligraphy.
I could see that, because you'll also hear slang in there as well too.
Yeah.
So I've heard hip hop from all different languages, and it's very, very interesting when you hear, especially growing up in America, listening to American hip hop, and then all of a sudden you hear some Arabic hip hop or Chinese hip hop or, you know, German hip hop. That it sounds like Hitler yelling, but like, you know, French hip hop, that is very, very interesting, you know. And but yeah, I recently heard Arabic hip hop, and I was like, that is interesting. And I was sitting there listening. And since I'm not like an encyclopedia on hip hop music in America, but I've heard a lot of stuff. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, I swear I've heard this beat before. You know, oh, I swear, like I could like understand. I was like, hey, I got a question. Is it about this? And he was like, yeah, pretty much. I was like, gee, I knew. He's like, how'd you know? I was like, you could feel it. Like I could hear it without understanding Arabic, you know, because music is one of those things, just like any art. you don't have to speak the language of the person who
Right.
created it to get the vibe. Sometimes you do, but not all the times. You can kind of feel, you don't hear Jimmy, you feel Jimmy. You gotta get that.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I
And we're going
interesting.
to take this on the other side actually, we're going to take this on the other side for some bonus content. So we're going to keep
Yeah.
it going, but we're up on a hard stop for the hour, and we're just going to keep on going. So those guys that want to come and subscribe to the YouTube channel or the Rumble channel or any of the podcast channels that we're on, we're going to have the links to get to Amy's websites and her podcasts and all that, and all the other guys. I post their stuff all the time, but
Yeah,
we
we're
want to
here.
thank Amy for being here. And like I said, we're going to take this on the other side, and we would just want to thank you again, Amy, for being here. And like I said, we're going to continue this, and thank everybody who listened in and watched today. We are so glad that you are here, and just hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that share button, share it with your best friend, share it with your worst enemy, because we love to have anybody that we can listen to the Weather Report. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.